Alright, so in this lesson, I want to talk about Wavelet Turbulence, which is a great way of adding some amazing detail to your smoke and fire simulations. So this is with Wavelet Turbulence, and this is without, so especially pay attention to these smoke plumes up top. So again, this is without, and this is with. So again, this is without, this is with, and you can see all of this additional detail in the smoke, in the fire, everything. This is just, and you can get so much closer with the camera and just get some amazing detail this way. So just to show you what it looks like when it moves, this is the rendered animation of the Wavelet Turbulence explosion. I just really love the detail in the fire, and it's really easy to do in Phoenix. So this gasoline explosion is set up in the exact same way as we did in the previous lesson. The only thing I did differently is I am emitting at an outgoing velocity of 3000 for 3 frames just to get more fuel in there. And then it goes up to 0 on frame 8. So that gives me that initial blast. And then for the settings under fuel, I'm doing 7.5 for energy, 0.6 fuel depletion, and 4 for propagation. I'm doing 5 for fuel buoyancy, and that's just because I really want that smoke plume to be rising up. Almost like a nuclear explosion, I kind of wanted to get that mushroom happening. So that's a pretty cool look, I think. And then I'm doing 1 for smoke buoyancy. And under the... You can open the project file and look at my exact setup for the shader. I did exactly what we're used to doing in this course. I just added a bunch of points to add more contrast, and I played with the colors here. Everything else is pretty standard, and for the smoke, I just changed it to a darker, almost pure black smoke, just to get a lot of contrast between the fire and the smoke. And I'm doing 0.9 for the smoke opacity. And one more thing I want to point out is that I'm actually using the use on opacity fire mode instead of the fully visible one. So this is what it looks like with the fully visible, which is what we've used up until this point. But I'm going to say use on opacity, and then I get this opacity multiplier. So I'm doing about 0.5 for the opacity, and I'm doing physically based of 0.65. So let me show you what that looks like. If you make this 1, you basically just get a physically accurate representation, but I kind of liked how it was bringing up more of that orange color in the smoke. So I made this about 0.7, and you can see it just brings back a lot of that sort of fire inside of the smoke, which I really like. So feel free to drag these sliders around and see what kind of effect you get. However, the most important thing I just wanted to show you here is the Wavelet Turbulence. So to get Wavelet Turbulence under output, you need to output the Wavelet Turbulence channel and also output velocity for motion blur. And with these channels enabled, you can just run the base simulation at a standard resolution. So you can see this is actually pretty low res. I would probably make this, maybe 0.2 meters. Just to get around 10 million total cells for my base simulation if I really wanted a lot of detail. And then you would go under resimulation and enable particle resimulation. And it tells you that the preview will not show anymore because it's going to be reading the cache from a new cache location, from this one, which is where the resimulation cache is gonna be. So just say okay, and it's gonna disappear. And then you need to go down here under the resimulation cache and pick your new cache folder. So you can make this the same as your standard folder. So I just did that, and just be aware that the Wavelet Turbulence cache files are going to be exponentially larger than your standard cache files. So easily you can go up to half a gig or even 1 gig per frame for these really big smoke and fire simulations with Wavelet enabled. So just be aware of that. I really recommend a fast SSD drive for that. And then what you need to do is enable grid resimulation. So this is what Wavelet is. And then this amplify resolution is actually how you're gonna get that Wavelet Turbulence additional resolution in your simulations. So the way this works is 0 means no change. An amplify resolution of 1 means doubling the resolution. And an amplify resolution of 2 means actually tripling the amount of resolution of your base simulation. So I suggest you just leave it at 1. For the amplification method, I suggest you just leave it at wavelet nice, which is the nicest one out of the 3. And the wavelet strength is just the strength of the wavelet effect of adding all of this additional detail. So for my example, I just left it at the default of 3 and it gave me some nice results. And you don't really need to touch anything else. And the way you would proceed from here is just start the simulation. And since you have particle resimulation enabled, when you start the simulation, it will automatically begin the resimulation process of running the wavelet turbulence. So let me run that right now. So I'm running the wavelet turbulence and it's definitely taking a while. It's also heavy for the max viewport. So what you can do is go under preview and increase this detail reduction, which as you can see will basically just cut the amount of voxels that you can see in the GPU preview, and it'll make it much faster to see what's happening without max freezing or anything. So maybe we can do detail reduction of 2. And basically the simulation is gonna run. And since I've already done this, I know that it's gonna end up looking like this. And something along these lines should be your final result. So the project file is under the video. I just wanted to walk you through the wavelet simulation process. So don't forget that you need both velocity and wavelet grid channels exported in order for wavelet turbulence to work. After you render it out in After Effects, I would always just add some nice curves for contrast. So you can see what I did there. It looks kind of flat, and with curves, it really pops. And you can also use the self-illumination compositing method that I showed you in the previous lesson to maybe add some glow to just the fire. So I hope that you guys found this helpful as always, and I'll see you in the next lesson.